I just want to tell you a story a little bit about my mum. I think I've shared this story before, but her and I were grocery shopping, and we're chucking all the groceries back in the car after it, and there's a potato peeler sitting at the bottom of the trolley that she hadn't paid for. And so my mum, I'm like, just throw it in, Mum. Let's go home. I don't know, it's been whatever in terms of grocery shopping. She's like, no, I have to go back and pay. So she takes that potato peeler. I don't know what they cost today, but say it's $1. She goes back, and of course the checkout person is like, why are you even giving this? Just take it. Who cares? But it showed the integrity of my mum. Just one sign of her integrity. And the other, and I even laugh now at our dinner table, my siblings and I would be hanging around the dinner table, causing a bit of mischief, and Mum's getting crosser and crosser or strict, and she's about to crack it. But 30 seconds, and she just starts either laughing or smiling or something, because there wasn't a tough or angry bone in her body. She is one of the kindest persons I've ever met. And that's just one example of that. And then the final one, and because we're looking at, for the sake of other series, is there's just something about my mum and the way she loves other people. Whether that's us as a family, or her friends, or just others in general. Even she's an officer, so in her ministry, she loves others well. And there's so much that I can learn from her as a mum. And the preaching or the message today talks about Jesus' mums and an encounter he had here. And so he was in this house, and thanks for Jen just sharing a bit of the context. He was in this house sharing and teaching with the people, and his mum and brothers, they came out and they stood inside, and because there's a crowd, they couldn't get in, so they send word to one of the other people to say, oh, tell Jesus that we're here. And so the message gets down to him, and he says, your mother and brothers, they're outside, they're looking for you. And in a normal circumstance, you would think, you'd say, oh, that's great, bring them in, get them front row seats, put them up the front here, would love to see them, or just give them 5 minutes and I'll be out in a sec, I'll wrap up. But he doesn't. What he does is he looks at everyone that's sitting there, just like we are today, and he says, who are my mother and my brothers? He asks the question for who are my mother and brothers, and then he asks or states, well, here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother, my sister, and my mother. And every time I've read that scripture, you get that little awkward feeling in you. Here's his mum standing outside with his brothers as well. And you've got to think, if you sit in that for a moment, what would you be feeling if you're his mum or his brothers? How would that feel? If you were his disciples sitting around the table, knowing the journey he's been on already with his mum, what did that look like? What did that feel like? What did Jesus just do? Did he simply ignore his mother and his brothers? And I just told you a bit of a story about my mum and the beautiful lady that she is. But imagine, Julie, my mum, she walks up here today, and somebody, Robin at the back there, she comes up the front and goes, Joel, your mum's outside. And I just blatantly, whatever. You are my brothers and sisters. It's awkward. So why is Jesus saying this? And even Catherine's my mother-in-law. Imagine that. You know her well. Imagine she comes up and she goes, oh, Joel, Catherine's here. I'm like, yeah, so what? You are my brothers and my sisters. I ignore her. Like, it makes you queased when you read the scripture. But it's significant. If you look at the Gospels, it's there 3 times. So that firstly gives you this indication of pay attention. Why are there 3 different authors making mention of this in the Gospels? The first is this. It's about the bloodline. So the bloodline in that culture was strong. You just have to look at the Gospels and see the genealogy, the history of people, seeing they place significant value of your bloodline. And even in the salvos sometimes, if you knew, there's just a salvo thing. When you meet somebody, they're like, where are you from? And this isn't a question, are you from Menai? It's a question about who's your mum and dad or their grandparents. So your heritage, your bloodline is strong. And for these people of that day, it was everything. It was your value, your worth, your significance at that time. So when Jesus says, "You are my brothers and sisters," it's going against this cultural norm of the bloodline. And then secondly, it's this responsibility. So they believe Jesus' dad was no longer with us. And so his role as the older brother of the family was to take responsibility of his family as well. That was his duty. And even Jen mentioned before, and you can see it in Mark 3:21, it tells Jesus, his mum and his brothers, they already tried to come and get him because they thought he was mad. In that culture, your job, once your dad passed away, your job was to look after the family as the older brother. And Jesus was going against this. He was out preaching and teaching to others instead of looking after his family. Again, it's this really strong conviction against the cultural norms. So this wasn't a thing where he's dishonoring family or your bloodline. What he's actually doing is trying to honor those who obey God. And it talks about in verse 35 that they would do God's will. He was honoring those people. And what he was trying to get at here is those cultural norms, that responsibility or the bloodline for some, and you can see it elsewhere in Jesus' time and how he talks to different people, that was the thing that was getting in the road of their faith. They were valuing that heritage, that bloodline, that significance, or their responsibility of the earthly duties over what the calling was for their family and their faith in the spiritual family. So when you look at this invitation, what is Jesus inviting us into? What's he talking about here when he says, "You are my brothers and my sisters"? Well, when we talk about family, it's really interesting because all of us have our own context of what that looks like. Some, it's really positive. It's a great experience when you talk about family, and others, it's actually quite negative. And I know in my family, there's two different paths in terms of what family looks like. It's very mixed. It comes with kind of mixed emotions in terms of what family has brought to your life. And so when I say, there's this invitation to family, already because of the earthly nature, that already has a mixed emotion for you. But this invitation from Jesus is into something new. A new spiritual family that goes against all those earthly things, the bloodline, the responsibility, what you have experienced in the earthly family. And I love William Barclay, he said this in regards to this scripture. The person who, through Jesus Christ, seeks the will of God has entered into a family which includes all the saints in earth and in heaven. It's really powerful when you go and you're part of God's team and join his spiritual family. You enter into people who have gone before you in the spiritual walk and those within us today. It's way greater than just our church today. And in Ephesians 2, it sums this up as well. It says, "Consequently, you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people and also members of his household." This invitation to a spiritual family. And I love Tyler Stanton this week, who has actually crafted this series. He talks about one father, many siblings. And us as a collective are the siblings. And what happens when you enter into this spiritual family, God does the transformation. He gets to reshape you, remold you. Some of those earthly kind of family ties that you have, he gets to redefine them for you when you get to be a part of God's family. And the thing is, this spiritual family that we have, our church included, it's something that needs to be set apart, different from the rest of the world. So when people meet you as an individual or meet you as a collective, if they come into this building, what they should receive is a little bit of Jesus, a little glimpse of heaven and what that might be like. And I love that last week as we celebrated Betty's 100th, her grandson stood and he basically said exactly that. He understood or could recognize the spiritual family that we are part of. He could see that there was something different. Betty's bloodline is strong, but he noticed the spiritual family had significance in her life. And then Simon, you said it when we were at Muster, about what do you love about Muster and our church here, and he says, well, it feels like family. And I was chatting to somebody last week, and they said the exact same words as you, Simon, in terms of this is family. We are a part of something special. And so what does it mean here at Menai to be spiritual family? How do we actually be family and do it well? How do we actually represent God's family well? And then how do we treat others like family? Because that's the difference. Because the thing is, when you look at your life, one of the ultimate examples of your spiritual life is actually how you treat others. That's a great indication of what we're like. And so in verse 35, it says, doing God's will. That's the thing that gets you a part of the spiritual family. In Matthew, same verse, same story, it says, do the will of the Father. So in verse 35, it says, do the will of the Father. So in Matthew, it says, the will of my Father. And then Luke says, they heard the word and then they did it. So it talks about what's our part to play. And so when you look at the spiritual family and our role in it, you've got to look at the expectation versus reality. And like a normally earthly family, there will be mess. Mark often says we aren't the perfect church. We're human. We're just trying to be Christ-like in everything we can do. And it's built on relationship. So that's going to be slow. It's going to take time. It's going to require you to be real and vulnerable. Open up some of those things that Josh realized in terms of some of our things, part of our life. It's sharing together with everyone. But the thing is, you can't connect deeply on that level with every single person in this place. There's no expectation. The expectation, yeah, maybe you know everyone's name, but it's who are your people? Who are you going deeply with, journeying well in order for you to develop in your spiritual walk with God? So who are those people? And that's where our life group, that's why they're a value of our church, because it is a place where you can grow deeply with people, both in the Word, but in your lives as well. But the other question, because this whole series is about for the sake of others, it's not just about the people that are in this room, it's about the people that aren't here yet. Or maybe the people that are in this room, but they haven't been included in some way yet. So there's this question about the family, about who do you need to invite into your space to journey deeply with. And our role, we need to create, we need to nurture, we need to help each other. If somebody wants to encounter Jesus, we need to make space and journey with that person, guide them, and we all need to play a part in that space. And as a church, it's more than just being welcoming. It's great to be invited and be a part of something, but it's this invitation to family. That is the difference. And you do that so well. And the spiritual family as well, it's a support structure. So as you journey in your individual spiritual life, it's the thing that supports you. So when you struggle in worship, the people around you are worshiping with you and for you and carrying you through that worship. Or when you're in a time where prayer is really hard, somebody else can then pray on your behalf and cover you in prayer in that season. Or maybe scripture, you're opening the word and you're just not receiving. Others can pray and affirm that scripture over your life. That is what the spiritual family is about. And you do this well. I was thinking this week about all the different parts of our church, and I think we do family well. Warts and all. I was thinking about Janine Hucker, and my kids, they still have in rotation with their soft toys these little bunnies she created last Easter or the Easter before, and then the candles at Mother's Day as well. And it's not just the making it, it's the thoughtfulness about Janine. To think, you know what's going to bring a bit of joy to somebody is if I use my creative gifts and love people that way. Or I think of you, Justine. On Thursday, I know no one likes to be called out, but it's all good. You, Justine, in playgroup, and it's not the fact you turn up and you're a part of it, it's how you love the kids. And you do that in your work, and then you give up your time as a volunteer as well, just to love others well. I was thinking, Jenny, every Thursday, not every Thursday, every so often, Jenny drives Olwen, and there's many of you who do that, but it's not Jenny jumping in the car and driving Olwen to Southgate. It's her love and care for others, and she just sees a need and she wants to jump in. And you do it at the courts as well, providing tea and coffee to others. You love people well. Or Rob, I heard for Jeff's 50th, you took him to the footy. Being just a good mate, just loving people well. Or Claire called me the other day just thinking, how's Isabel and Don going? And just wanting to check in. And I think of Karen, I get random texts, and I'm sure you do it for others, about you just praying for people, stopping and praying for others. And then Rhonda, every single time there's a need here at our church, I always get a text going, hey Joel, how can I serve? And it's not the service part. You just have this need and desire to help others. That's what it's about. And we love that about you. And the list goes on. I have a long list here, but I won't keep going. But whether it's meals, whether it's text messages, whether it's phone calls, or the proper how are you really doing, you do family well. And I just want to encourage you today in that we have a fantastic church. And as people arrive into our church, it's about how do they get invited into this family as well? Be a part of us, warts and all. And I was thinking, well, what's one way to continue this? And I think it's through encouragement. I think encouragement just like that. I know, Justine, straight away you're like, leave me alone, Joel. But hopefully that filled your tank a little. And like Sandra said before, I felt pretty good saying that to you as well. There's something about blessing somebody else and receiving it as well. But in looking today, encouragement is noting or naming something good about somebody, something that they do. And in most cases, I remember Jess and I, when we're doing marriage prep, we're told, you have to encourage one each other there and then. And then we started, and the person said, no, don't talk about what they do. Tell them about who they are. And I think often we get caught in the encouragement about the doing stuff. It's not about the doing, not about Justine turning up and doing and helping with playgroup. It's about her heart, her character. And so today I want to give a moment to bless other people. And the blessing is this: notice and naming something about who you are. And the next definition is, speaking God's intention, speak the intention of God over somebody. It changes it, right? It's not just encouragement, it's speaking words of life over an individual. And this last one is partnering with God, speaking his voice. Your words are powerful. And so in this next 5 minutes or so, I want to give you an opportunity to bless somebody. I want to take a moment and just pray over it. God, who would you like to bless today? And a name will hopefully come to mind. And there's either a sheet of paper and an envelope if you want to go old school, and actually you could post it to them, and it's something cool about getting something old school in the post. Bit of encouragement. So you could do that. It might be a text message. It might be you feel convicted to stand up, walk across the room, and say it to somebody. And it might be somebody in the room, or it might be somebody outside. And again, it's this encouragement, the spiritual family. God's saying, you and I are brothers and sisters. It's those who are a part of our church and those who aren't a part of it yet. And yet is the key word. So when you take some time, there's all the stuff at the front, piece of paper, envelopes, pens, at the back as well with Jared and Elise there as well. Or the text message, or physically get up and walk across the room and bless somebody else. I'll leave you to it.